The Reserve Bank cutting the crucial lending rate by 0.25%, a move that will make home, auto and corporate loans cheaper. The repo rate at which the RBI lends to banks is now down to 6%, which is its lowest in more than 6.5 years.
Inflation excluding food and fuel, which has hitherto been sticky, has fallen significantly over the past 3 months. These factors, along with the normal and well-distributed rainfall and the smooth rollout of the GST, opened up some space for monetary policy accommodation. Accordingly, the MPC decided by a vote of 4-2 to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points. Recognizing, however, that inflation is expected to rise from the current lows over the rest of the year, the committee persevered with a neutral stance.
Well, joining us on the program this evening to look at the state of the economy, how important this move is, and in the light of all the other data we've been looking at this week, whether we can see the economy come back on track, because certainly there are indicators that do suggest there should be some concern, but at the same time, there are other numbers that are coming forward today which suggest that things may not be as bad as we think. We have Mohan Guruswamy, the chairman for the Centre for Policy Alternatives, here in the studio with us. Lord Meghnad Desai is here with his new book. We'll be talking to him about that, but he'll be here to talk about this as well. Manish Tiwari is still with us, and Rajat Sethi, Senior Research Fellow at the India Foundation, joins us on the program this evening. Let me ask Lord Desai first, just to give us an overall sense where you're coming from, about how you're looking at India's economy. Are we in good shape?
Of course. India is growing at the fastest rate of most countries, and estimates always get revised. But we have another good thing, which is the growth rate of real GDP is above the rate of inflation. We lived through about 5 years during the UPA 2 regime when that was not the case. So that's good. Inflation is more or less under control. It bounces up and down. Growth rate is good. But in a sense, I would still say that RBI has been too cautious. They could have cut it by 50 basis points. And so got away with it, because what really is needed is revival of investment, and more or less economists will all agree that if you cut the lending rate, the economy will revive, both consumer spending on durables and investment. So I think there needs to be a little bit more boldness in our economic policy, so we can really get to 8. I would like 8 to 8.5%. I'm not happy with 7.5%.
But it's good. You're optimistic. You're saying overall you believe that we are in good shape. Mohan Guruswamy, your view, first give me the overall impression, and then we can break down some of the numbers. Do you agree with that assessment that there's generally good news on the economic front?
No, I don't agree with that. I think the economy is not doing well at all, because where the economy should be doing well is in creating jobs and meeting the aspirations of 500-600 million people who are below the radar right now. Some people are doing well, so it gives you the feeling that the economy is doing well as a whole. And even these figures which come out, they don't really add together. You're getting a growth rate, but you tweak the method of calculation of GDP. You're comparing it with earlier period. Then you've got irreconcilables, which are there in the national accounting figures, which amount to almost another 1%. So you're talking about a fudge of about 3 to 3.5%.
You're saying it's fudged
in the GDP.
Deliberately?
I think it's it's clever. It's creative accounting. It's certainly there, and people have challenged it across the board. Even international monetary institutions have questioned this. Well-known economists have also questioned this. You're talking about Stiglitz. Stiglitz himself has questioned some of this data. So I'm really worried, because what we are seeing is that some people, there are several countries living one on top of the other. Some sections are doing exceptionally well. You've got about 100 million, 150 million people who are doing well. People in the government sector are doing extremely well. 23 million people employed.
But I think you raised an important question about jobs, for instance, and let me take that to Rajat. We focused on the economy as well yesterday, Rajat Sethi, and the CMIE's data, which is now sort of infamous, it's out there, about 1.5 million jobs being lost post demonetisation in the first 4 months of this year. And the CMI boss was here, and he actually said that he's worried because he believes that the pressure on jobs is going to continue to be there. He doesn't see where the jobs are going to come from, where they're going to be created, and that is actually a big worry. And I think for most people that is. How would you sort of address those concerns?
Well, I think one issue that one of our guests here had raised about fudging the GDP data to 3%.
Clever accounting, as you put it.
Clever accounting, whatever that is. I find it a rather ridiculous claim. First of all, there have been these international economists who have been extremely bullish about the growth prospects in India. There has been a recent Harvard study by the Center for International Development which clearly says that India is the only country right now which has its fundamentals all correct. You know, Nidhi, how do you measure the health, the economic health of a nation? And there are 4 or 5 big dimensions to measure the health of the country. Growth is one, jobs is second, the current account deficit, which is the fiscal discipline of the said government, is important. What is the confidence of the foreign investors, which is measured by FDI, is the fourth. And then you also look at the other domestic concerns, etc. And I would say in all of these dimensions, India has been doing really well when you compare it with the global landscape. Having said that, I was coming to the jobs aspect as well. You know, the Modi government has completely flipped the very definition of jobs, which is usually seen in the traditional parlance. Now, there are 2 aspects of jobs, which was discussed yesterday in your show as well. One is the formal sector, the other is an informal sector. If you focus on the formal sector, which is led by the IT sector in general, it is going through a big, transformation. The jobs that existed 10 years back, they need not exist now because,
automation has taken over.
Yeah, innovation is happening at a rapid pace. So it is the onus lies on the industry as well to shift their understanding of the future of growth and try to incorporate those big growth engines into their system, and then look at creating the next generation of jobs. So that's for the formal sector. In the informal sector, what the Modi regime has been doing is through Mudra loan. I mean, you will not get to understand the impact of Mudra sitting in these offices in Delhi. You will have to, go down in the field and understand and ask people what has Mudra done to them.
I'll tell you something about Mudra because my colleague Srinivasan Jain just did an entire show on Mudra. And this came after Amit Shah said that ever since Mudra was launched, some 7.5 crore people became self-employed because of all the money that was lent to them. However, when he spoke to the head of Mudra, he said that there's actually no estimate yet that they have of how many jobs have been created. And if you break down the figures, so he talks about, the money that they've lent to the poor. MFIs, that's microfinance institutions, lent 45,000 crores in 2015, that increased by 23.8% in 2016. But if you look at the previous years as well, those amounts have been increasing for quite some time. So the Mudra example doesn't quite add up when you break down the numbers and what the head of Mudra himself is saying. Where are these claims coming of these 7 crore plus jobs?
Give me a chance to explain this. Any investment that you make, if you are opening a small business, it is going to take some amount of time to generate, to go through its gestation period and start giving the results that you expect out of that investment. And this is a very simple.
Why should Amit Shah put a number to it? Maybe he should.
No. What the party president was putting forth was the number of the beneficiaries of the Mudra scheme as such, as to how many number of people have taken this loan. And this is a number which is clearly available. Now you can debate as to how much is the impact of this Mudra scheme. That is something which we still have we need to give in more time to understand as to how this unfolds in the coming years. But this has been a revolution of sorts, and history is going to judge the Modi government for completely flipping the definition of job creation.
Manish, come in on this. I mean, I know the opposition will certainly politically want to take the government to task on the economy, but is it all gloom and doom as far as the opposition is concerned? Or do you see some areas where we're still fundamentally strong?
Nidhi, the reality is that the economy is up a creek without a paddle. And I don't have to explain which creek am I talking about. Let me give you a few numbers from a piece which I wrote today in the morning for Indian Express. The 8 core sectors of the economy are growing at only 0.4%. The number was 7% for the corresponding month last year. The index of industrial production is down to 1.7%. It was 8% for the corresponding month of June last year. You have unprecedented agrarian distress across the country. Farmer suicides have gone up exponentially in 2015 and 2016. Insofar as jobs are concerned, Mr. Modi had promised 380 lakh jobs, between the May of 2014 and the July of 2017. By the government's own estimates, they only created 1.55 lakh jobs in 2014 and 2.31 lakh jobs in 2015. And insofar as investment is concerned, Business Standard ran with a headline, I think, a fortnight ago, that domestic investment is at the lowest in the last 34 years. You are exactly where you were in 1990 in terms of domestic Indian industry investing and creating capital. And over and above that, demonetisation and the GST have completely demolished the informal sector. So therefore, gloom and doom is absolutely real. And I agree with Mr. Mohan Guruswamy, this is creative accounting. It is fudging figures because it's the first time Indian GDP numbers have been questioned internationally. And if you actually extrapolate the 6.1%, the growth for the last quarter of 2016-17 to the old base year of 2004 and 5, the Indian economy grew only at 4.1%. That is the lowest in 4 decades. So what are we talking about? Flipping the paradigm of job creation and flipping the paradigm of growth. The Prime Minister lied to the nation during the campaign. And the Prime Minister, I charge him with running the economy into the ground.